Secretary, Mr. Wichaman, and me, the chairperson. And you know that last but not least, right, because our topic is really specific.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to the help from Ms. Thao and the facilitation from the Faculty of Foreign Languages Department, today it is a great pleasure of mine to be here and present to you my report on the topic, identifying and correcting Vietnamese English translation mistakes from a perspective of faithfulness and fluency. Before getting started, in order for you to easily keep up with the track of my presentation, I believe it is necessary that we take a look at the general contents. My report includes 6 chapters, as you can see on the screen. Chapter 1, Introduction; 2, Literature Review; 3, Method; 4, Results; 5, Discussion; and finally, Conclusion. Now, not keeping you waiting any longer, I shall begin right away with Chapter 1, Introduction, in which I will first identify the major problem mentioned in the report. Ladies and gentlemen, born from people's great demand to overcome language barriers for certain purposes, translation has made its improvements and expansion through time, so that today its role is undeniably important in many aspects of life. Indeed, in the age when globalization has become a mainstream all over the globe, whichever country desiring to be more open to the world should never underestimate the job of translation, especially from and into so-called international languages, one of which is English. And obviously our country is not an exception. Programs on training future translators, English translators particularly, have been officially offered in our country, especially at universities. And speaking of learning to be translators, we may all notice that translating is more of a skill than some kind of knowledge. Therefore, learning to translate involves a lot of practice. In other words, learning to translate is to make mistakes, learn from them, and thanks to that, gradually perfect translating skills. However, it is much easier to make mistakes than to learn from them. Excuse me for a second. There is a long distance between these two sets of the process. So, how to effectively learn from the mistakes made, especially in Vietnamese English translations, is the question of many students of translation major. And hoping to help them figure out the answer, I conducted this research, which aims to fulfill 3 main objectives. 1. Dividing common mistakes made when translating into groups with appropriate labels. 2. Listing and analyzing the examples from each group of mistakes. And 3. Introducing suggestive solutions to certain groups of mistakes. Now that you've gotten the big picture of my report, I shall now move on to the next chapter, Literature Review. First, we cannot dig any deeper to learn more about Vietnamese English translation without clearly understand what translation is. Well, according to a very famous German novelist, Gunther Wilhelm Grass, translation is that which transforms everything so that nothing changes. Everything is transformed and yet nothing changes? How confusing, you may think. Do not worry, because you will find out right away what such expression means. By nothing changes, Mr. Grass emphasized that the meaning of the source language text ought to be fully included in the translation. And by transforms everything, he indicated that certain language elements, such as grammatical and lexical elements of the source language text, are changed so as to appear more natural in the target language. And triply, to translate is to make necessary changes to grammatical and lexical elements of the source language text while faithfully conveying its meaning. Next, I'll talk about factors contributing to a good translation by introducing the viewpoint of Lu Xun, a very famous Chinese writer. According to him, there are two qualities of a good translation: faithfulness and fluency. These two criteria are closely associated with two parts of a translation: its content and its appearance. A faithful translation is an honest reflection of the source language text meaning. And besides, a translation is considered fluent when the language used strictly follows target language grammatical rules and appear pleasing to the ears of the target language readers. Next, as we are discussing Vietnamese English translation, it would be a big mistake not to mention the differences between these two languages that make translation difficult. Well, in terms of linguistics, Vietnamese and English are grammatically and lexically different. Speaking of grammar, Vietnamese rules are much more flexible than those of English, which are noticeable considering certain grammar concepts, such as verb tenses, voices, subject-verb agreements, sentence structures, and modifiers positions. As for lexical differences, the biggest obstacles lie in word choice and collocation. I spent the last part of this chapter introducing the way common mistakes are categorized. That is, they are divided into groups, not only linguistically, but also according to how they affect the translation. That way, there will be grammatical mistakes affecting translation fluency and translation faithfulness. And the same method is applied to lexical mistakes, as you can see on the screen. So far, I have gone through Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Next, you'll be informed of how the research was carried out in Chapter 3, Method. First, the subjects of the research were 50 juniors and seniors whose major was translation and equivalent, and the material used was a collection of Vietnamese texts on four main topics: culture, education, science, and economy. And the research was conducted step by step. First, Vietnamese texts were carefully selected from reference books on translation and the website VOA in Vietnamese. Then they are delivered to the subjects who were asked to translate them into English in 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, the translations were emailed back to the researcher so as for them to be examined for the number of mistakes. And thanks to the figures collected from such research, charts showing the number of each mistake group were sketched and are shown in the next chapter results. The first chart to be shown represents grammatical mistakes. And as you can see on the screen, the majority of grammatical mistakes affect translation fluency, while only a few of them do harm to translation faithfulness. However, the same thing does not happen to lexical mistakes, since there is only a short distance between the number of lexical mistakes affecting translation fluency and those affecting faithfulness. You've just been informed of the number of each mistake group. However, figures do not speak as loud as examples. That is why right now in Chapter 5 discussion, I'm going to list examples from each mistake group and then suggest solutions to certain kinds of mistakes. We shall begin right away with the first group: grammatical mistakes affecting translation fluency, with mistakes like wrong tenses, wrong subject-verb agreement, wrong use of voices, and mistaken sentence structures. And the first example to be looked at is wrong tenses. And as you can see on the screen, although the phrase "this is the 12th consecutive year" is a very clear signal of present perfect tense, students seem to ignore it and use simple present instead. Coming next is an example about wrong subject-verb agreements. And in this case, students habitually put a plural verb after a s-ending subject without noticing that here the United States is being referred to as one single nation, not as separate states, and therefore is a singular subject. In the next example of mistake in voices, students tended to overuse passive voice. And here, looking at the original sentence, you can see that the disappearance of a cultural heritage is a negative fact, and it is a habit of Vietnamese to put free word be before negative verbs. Coincidentally, in Vietnamese, this free word also signals passive voice. This may be the reason why students use English passive voice even when it was unnecessary to do so. We continue by looking at some mistaken sentence structures, the first of which is fragments. In many cases, fragments were formed because students keep on lengthening a sentence using relative clauses, and that was exactly what happened to the sentence here. Because of students' careless use of relative clause, it was turned into a sentence without main verb. Following is a run-on sentence, which was formed due to the lack of punctuation, which in this case was a comma. Now that we've finished talking about grammatical mistakes affecting translation fluency, it's now time for us to move on to the next group, grammatical mistakes affecting translation faithfulness. And unlike those mistakes affecting fluency, mistakes of this kind do not make the text technically wrong, yet do harm to its meaning. You see what I mean looking at the following sentence structures. Please take a careful look at the student's translation. You can see that the student here is technically wrong. However, according to this sentence, only Hàng Bạc Street is lively and vibrant, whereas those are the characteristics of all 36 streets in Hanoi. And in the next example, we'll find out how modifiers positions affect the way we understand a certain expression. Here, students' choice to put number word two before American and Italian scientists may cause the readers to misunderstand that there are two American and two Italian scientists, while there is only one scientist from America and the other from Italy, according to the original phrase. We continue by looking at some lexical mistakes, which also affect translation fluency and faithfulness. This is an example about mistakes in collocations that affect a translation fluency. Here, students chose small to express the meaning, not much chance. However, it is unnatural in English to say small chance. Instead, it should be slim or little chance. And following is an example of mistake about word choice. You can look at the original text and take a more careful look at the underlined word, which evokes in our mind the image of a narrow road, which is used for light vehicles only. However, such image cannot be found in English streets or roads, which are wide ways in the cities. I hope that you've gotten to know each group of mistakes better through the examples listed. So now we can move on to the very important part of the report, in which the suggested solutions to each mistake group are proposed. And speaking of verb tenses, students make mistakes because they tend to underestimate Vietnamese time expression. and decide on which verb tense to use in a particular sentence without putting it in relation with other sentences in the text. And what I suggest is that they pay more attention to time expressions and refer to the whole text or the sentences to decide on which verb tense to use in a particular sentence. Below is an example of how effective a Vietnamese time expression is in giving you a clue on which verb tense to use. We can see here the phrase in the 2011 and 2012 school year is a point of time in the past, and all we have to do is to put the verb in the English sentence into its simple past tense. And next, to avoid making mistakes about voices, students should stop being too dependent on Vietnamese signals for passive voice, such as bị or được. Instead, they should take a more careful look at these three words to see if they really signal passive voice. And also, you have to keep in mind that it is not compulsory that we put such three words before verbs whenever there is passive voice. By that, I mean in Vietnamese, sometimes passive voice can be implied, not signal. It is indeed not very difficult to tell whether certain three words really signal passive voice or not. For example, here I have 4 sentences, each of which has a free word that usually signals passive voice in Vietnamese. However, only 2 of them should be translated into English passive voice. So how to tell the difference? Well, the secret is, if certain free words do not signal passive voice, then when they are taken away, the sentences are still meaningful. Let's take a look at sentences 2 and 4. You can see that even the free words are taken away, we can still fully understand the sentences. And as a result, sentences 2 and 4 should be translated into English active voice sentences. Next, I'll give you solutions to mistakes about modifiers position. What students are doing is that they pay very little attention to how near the modifiers are to the modified words. Instead, they should make necessary adjustments so as for all the modifiers to stand as near the modified word as possible. Please take a look at my example. Here we have Vietnamese sentence. Tiền Giang là một tỉnh miền Nam với nhiều loại cây ăn trái. Tiền Giang is the modified word, and with 2 modifiers. That it is a province in the south with a lot of fruit trees. However, if we strictly follow the order of modifiers in Vietnamese, the sentence may become a little ambiguous. For example, please look at the sentence below. Tiền Giang is a province in the south with many fruit trees. We may misunderstand that with many fruit trees modifies the south, not Tiền Giang itself. So instead, we should write Tiền Giang is a southern province with many fruit trees. And here you can see that the 2 modifiers stand next to the modified word. This is one of my favorite solutions to word choice. I suggest that instead of using the word which the students believe are the right one without checking the dictionary and relying on the Vietnamese English dictionary only, students should carefully follow certain steps to find an English equivalent to a certain Vietnamese word. And now, because of the limitation of time, I will only list some steps which are applicable to nouns. Step 1 is to make sure you understand the meaning of the word by using your own words to describe it. Step 2 is to think of a simple English word which is an equivalent to the Vietnamese word. Step 3, look the word up in the dictionary, and in case the word is inappropriate, you could look for a related word in the word finder dictionary. It is a special kind of dictionary. And for you to clearly understand, so it seems like a slide has been lost, and so I've moved on to the next solution, which is applicable to sentence structures. Students make mistakes about sentence structures because they read and translate sentences, even complicated ones at the same time. What they ought to do is to analyze a complicated sentence so as to clearly see the relationship between its different parts. And you can take a look at the example here. This is a sentence in which there are many relative clauses. And instead of putting the modifier strictly follow the order in the Vietnamese sentence, we should draw arrows to see the relation between the modifiers and the modified word, so that later the relative clauses we use can be more effective. The next step is to translate this graph into English. And you can see that this is not a complicated task that you usually do in your syntax classes, only a simple step. You can see how finally an English sentence can be created. And the last solution I'd like to show you is about collocation. Instead of choosing word combination without checking on the word's compatibility, we should use dictionaries to check for common words to see if they are okay together. Yes, and those are all the collocations, the solutions I want to introduce. Now I'm coming to the summary of Chapter 5, discussion. Some steps you should take to effectively translate a text. Number 1, paying attention to grammatical rules. Number 2, making necessary analysis. And number 3, making use of various kinds of dictionaries. So far, I've gone through 5 chapters, and we are now in the very last part of the presentation, the conclusion. Well, here I hope that my new way of dividing mistakes into groups and the solutions I suggested can be to some extent helpful to students of translation major on the way to improve their skills. And thank you very much for your attention.
Congratulations. I think it is wasted if we spend time and words to mention your fluency, because everybody here knows that you are an expert, you are a professional MC for all of the events at the school. Is that right? I highly appreciate your writing. We have worked with each other for so long, but I have knew nothing about your writing. Is that right? We talk so much, but I have never seen your writing. I don't really know how to arrange your words. And now, when I receive this one, was very surprised. So thank you so much. And I think that the student translation, they get the chance to have a look at the writing. And we have a lot of things to learn here. Right? You do remember to borrow this white milk from the photographer, right? Spend some time reading this one. You can learn a lot of things from it. And now it's time for you to listen to your advisor. She's going to give you something.
Thank you. I have a very short remarks on Thao because she has worked with me for quite some time, and I have to say that I'm a demanding teacher, so she has to work very hard, and she proved to be capable of fulfilling what she wanted to do. And through her presentation, you see that she really mastered research. She has made good efforts to complete the paper. First of all, she has, she has done the survey carefully, very carefully, to identify the translation. And she finally focused on the perspective of two things, which is fluency and faithfulness. Therefore, she was able to study the problem in depth. In short, I am very pleased with and proud of the performance. Thank you.
Now be ready to listen to your examiner. If Mr. Lipton is a demanding teacher, so Ms. Lipton and Mrs. Lipton, the thing that he really wants to do is much more demanding. Right? Be ready and to listen to his comments as well as the two questions.
The chairperson wanted me to be a miss. We go to Thailand. Head off. Alright, go. Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, frankly speaking, nothing to be worried about your presentation. Excellent. Okay. Now we go on with your written text. First of all, you mentioned the colloquials. Okay, Vietnamese colloquials. Oh my God. See, I'm afraid, I'm scared when you touch on, you see, colloquials, especially the Vietnamese colloquials. Okay, because no books, no histories, no materials, no documents. They are to touch deeply on the colloquials, especially the Vietnamese, when you transfer into another language, another one like English. English colloquial, you can find them in some Webster dictionaries, something like that, or Lang. Got it. But in order to do the transfer from Vietnamese colloquial into English, I think it's a incredible job. It's not as easy and just mentioned, right? Okay, we move to another one. Okay, your graduation paper, it's a very good one, but I don't know why you use graduate paper instead of graduation paper. Okay, that's it's simple right in the cover. Got it. Okay, the literature review. Okay, you base your writing so much on Mr. Logan, right? To Rushi, or I don't know how to speak Chinese. Okay, he is well known, but the problem is that we cannot apply it. See, in the Chinese writer, yeah, we say style. That means we can apply his style into Chinese, Vietnamese, and vice versa, but not English and Vietnamese. You know why?
I think because Chinese and Vietnamese share the same culture.
Excellent. For 1,000, more than 1,000 years. And
Eastern culture,
yeah,
particularly, and Vietnamese is influenced by Eastern culture, while English is the Western one.
yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, many more to talk about the different cultures between Eastern and Western culture. Oh my God. Right. So we cannot base so much on Lu Xun, okay, for your research. That's the biggest problem, okay? And furthermore, you need to read more literature, okay? So that you can put them into your literature review. Because I already read over, and I recognize that your writing skill excellent, okay? You're certainly excellent. Yeah, your organization excellent. But yeah, I don't want to say you're lazy, but because I know you, okay, very hardworking student. But you read not enough. That means your reading is not sufficient to your research writing. See, in short. And next, reference. I don't know why your reference does not follow the rule of alphabet. You know alphabet. The name of the author should be put in an order of alphabet. That means alphabetically order. Right? Let me put it in alphabetically. Right? A first, B, C, D. Why? Here, I already know. It's very basic. Another point in your reference is that the references consist of many sources, some from videos, some from internet, some from newspapers, some from books, publications, you see, and you put all of them together, you mix all of them together, like cooking. I'm hungry. Yeah, okay, my God, this is okay, not science at all, right? And we already learned, we already studied in the book, in many books, and even in our school's book, how to guide students writing a research paper. Okay, the alphabet. What I mean when I ask you the research question, because faithfulness in Mr. Logan, okay, theory cannot be applied exactly for the Vietnamese English translation, because not only the principle, faithfulness in English is a terrible term. Okay, it's long ago, maybe 100 years ago, or maybe 200 years ago. Yeah, it was a good idea. But now, you see, in modern English, okay, strongly object that theory, the faithfulness. Say we use a run-on or something like that. Not faithfulness anymore. Okay, faithfulness is just 10%. You know that? Modern English, modern translation. So when you apply faithfulness in Chinese, writer theory into English, modern English, oh my God, I'm scared, right? But no problem, right? That's very important. And you do very careful research, but you have no research budget. Oh, yeah. I already told the panel in the former about the problem. Okay, research paper, especially is the most important thing for your level graduation paper, is it is an important research, and you really need research budget, at least one. Okay, usually we have two, but yeah, one is okay. We don't need many. Okay, just one thing, and you focus your study on the research budget. Okay, and you based on your research question, and you build up and you set up questionnaires or interviews or survey or something. Okay? You see, with the main points that already mentioned in the research question as well in your topic. And you didn't supply us the questionnaire or the something that you use for your survey, your research. No. Now we have two simple, yeah, question for you. No simple. Sorry. Many tables in chapter 5 do not have notes, okay? And notes, of course we have two kinds, end notes and footnotes, okay? Anyways, okay, whatever. But can you tell me why? Okay, next, the second. Do you think that your suggestion and solution can help fresh translators fulfill their job? If not, what are modifications? Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Lixiao, but for the first question,
Please.
At first I thought that the endnotes and the footnotes that you mentioned are kind of captions, but when I check again, I find that my tables do have captions. So I want to clarify if you are indicating the further notes or further explanation to each table.
Okay. So like the word run on. Run on is a term. Okay. You cannot invent it by yourself. No. Okay, I myself cannot invent it. Okay. You use this. You use it. Okay. You take it from another English writer. Okay. You must have the notes for that. Okay. That notes from Charles 1969 or something. Okay. That's very important in science. You cannot take it for your own. No. Okay. Because you borrow it from somebody else. You can write out, okay, from that Mr. from this. Okay.
Yes, and in that case, I consider this is another mistake of my thesis, because I read about these terms in the book Writing 1 at my first year at university, that I didn't think that I should put some
No.
explanation
What?
and footnotes. Yes, it is then another mistake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Answer the question, please.
Then for this question, whether I think that my suggestion can help French translators fulfill their job, let me say that students make mistakes, and so do French translators, who lack considerable experience in the field and may end up creating what we call translation disasters. And therefore, I do believe that my suggestions can be, to some extent, helpful to the French translators due to three reasons. The first reason is that the French translators, for the first time, have to work independently with nothing to be referred to as models and no one to fix their work. So they have to have some kind of objective for them to fulfill. And I hope that the criteria of faithfulness and fluency can give them objectives to fulfill when working on certain translations. And the second reason is that because fresh translators begin to have deadlines to worry about, unlike students, and therefore my suggested solutions are helpful as short-term solutions, since most of them help the fresh translators immediately deal with problems on certain translations which they are working on. For example, the solutions can help them make better choices of lexical words or suggest ways to deal with long, complicated sentence structures. And of course, I'm not saying that French translators do not need long-term solutions. And I believe that some of my suggested solutions can be helpful in building students' long-term skills.
Not pollution.
Solutions, I'm sorry. For example, if they are practiced frequently by the students, they can help them form good habits when translating. For example, they will form a habit of carefully analyzing original text before translating, or refer to different kinds of dictionaries to make correct word choice. Yes, and one more example. For example, if they apply my solution to wrong word choice, they may, every time they do so, they may come up with new words and gradually they will build themselves considerable vocabulary.
Okay. We say selecting appropriate dictionaries in order to help the French translators to do the job to do the job is also a very challenging technique. Something like học lịch chập cánh ước mơ để vươn tới những tầm cao. Okay, it's very simple, quite sentence, right? The slogan for our school. Yeah, I remember something like that. Hey, chắp cánh ước mơ. How? If you use any kinds of whatever kind of dictionaries, you cannot find out. Chắp cánh ước mơ no. Right? In that case, we call it pragmatics. You know, pragmatics ngữ dụng học. Okay, you cannot use a dictionary. I want to ask you for just 1 minute to tell the story. Okay, I've just finished the translation from the school. Okay, the vice president sent me some paper along, and I got big problems in order to correct the English, okay, of some writers. They wrote English, and I myself corrected. I got big problem because they use the tools, you know, some tools like Google or Edit or something like that. And they do the translation and submit to the vice president. Oh my God! And I took the job. Okay, oh my God, this was terrible. I couldn't understand where they graduated from. Oh my God! Because it is use the tool like giáp thân. The giáp thân is the age. Okay, the term giáp thân giáp tí. Okay, they say like in the book, they say body thân, body armor. Oh my God, giáp áo giáp, body thân thể. No, giáp thân is the age. Giáp tí, giáp thịt. This different. That's because of the tool. Okay, the tool does not know about the culture or the term. Okay, and the writer use, you see, full text and correct something and put it and submit it to the other authorities. And it was a nightmare for me at the time to do the correction because I already did it again all from beginning to the end. Okay, 1 minute for the story over. Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, I'm partly or maybe mostly satisfied my visual answers for the. Okay, I ask for the permission for the panel and chairperson to give the score. Is it right now or no? No, not now. No, no. But,
Big secret.
secret.
No, the problem is that
But I need your modification, okay?
yeah, that is the reason why we don't announce the scoring.
Oh,
We
okay,
need some more time to improve
Okay.
the writing.
Start with four. No.
So do you have any questions?